Hey, peace. What's going on, family? Welcome to another episode of United Black America Radio. I am Assad Malik. Happy to be back on the mic. Happy to be doing this with you all, family. And I want to thank you all for inviting me in your place, in your space, and building with me and rocking with us since 2013. And here we are. But before I get into today's episode, I want to greet you all as I've done from the very beginning with peace. Assalamu alaikum to my brothers and sisters in Islam. Ashe and Uhuru to all my long-lost relatives on the continent. God bless all my Christians listening. Hotep to my Kemites. Black power to the Panthers, both new and true, and salute and honors to the Moors out there. Everybody else, what's going on, family? This is the radio show that I wish I had when I first came into Black consciousness, which is exactly why I created it. Now, why do I say that? I say that because I've made it my personal mission to bring you the information that you need to take action in the face of white supremacy and to live a more conscious lifestyle. And, since 2013, I think we've achieved that. But you all be the judge of that. The way that you judge that is by going to wherever you're listening to this radio show and leave us a review. If you're listening on SoundCloud, hit them hearts. If you're on YouTube, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment about what you like, and definitely leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes. I want to thank a couple of people. I want to send some shout outs. I always like to do that at the beginning of the episode to show you all that I really do appreciate you all listening, downloading these episodes, showing your support. Just like you, there are days when I'm like, I'm not really feeling it. I'm not really vibing. I'm not, on top of my game. And then I'll look at our numbers. We have 1.2 million downloads over the life of this episode. I'll read the emails that you all send me, telling me about how I've changed your life, how this show has improved the way you do business. It's improved your relationships. If you go back and listen to shows like the one we did with Queen Afua, how you were able to transform your health and save your life and save the lives of those around you, then that motivates me to jump back on the mic and keep doing what we're doing. And we're committed to this. When I say we, I mean me and the entire United Black America team. Our organization has grown from basically being 2 people to having 400 active and inactive members all over the world. So that's something that I'm very, very proud of. And I always open up the show with that greeting because we need to know that we don't have to be uniformed in our opinion to be unified in our intention. And of course, this radio show is, for the most part, a lot of my interpretation of the information that I've received from our ancestors and our elders, and some of my opinion. And you all still rock with me because you all know that, again, we don't have to be uniformed in our opinion. We both share the same spirit, right? We're both walking the same path. We both have the same intention. And that intention is the liberation and salvation of the Black nation. Is that racist? Absolutely not. Every other nation is going to take care of themselves. It's time for us to adopt the same philosophy. So when I say that I'm about the liberation and salvation of the Black nation, does that mean I'm excluding other nations? Yeah, that means I'm excluding other nations. We need to take care of home first, right? Now, if there's a group of people and they need help, it's in our best interest, it's in our highest humanity to help those people. But family, I don't know if you all have looked around lately. We're the ones that need help, right? Our communities are deteriorating. Our health is deteriorating. Our wealth is deteriorating. Our political power is deteriorating. Our knowledge of self is deteriorating. All right? I mean, if you look at the primary influences in our children's lives and the behavior of our children, we see the trajectory for where we're headed as a community. And if you don't like it, you need to be a part of the Black conscious movement. You need to do something about it. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But the mission of United Black America is to spread Black consciousness, to fight white supremacy, and to support the establishment of the United States of Africa. You all know that, but there's a reason why spreading Black consciousness comes first. Once we've achieved that part of our mission and we've reached a critical mass and we start to turn the tide, then we will put ourselves in a position where we can help others. But for now, we must help ourselves as a community by spreading Black consciousness. Now, what is Black consciousness? We've talked about it over the course of this show, right? But I've put all that together in a course, and our work study course is live. Those are the people that I want to send shouts out to. So I opened up the course again, and I said I wasn't going to do it. I said from now on, I'm not going to do any more live shows, or not live shows, live work study groups. I was just going to pre-record everything, and brothers and sisters would just jump in and listen at their own pace, work at their own pace. But I love building with the family. I love building with you all. And when we all come together, it shows you, if you're out there alone, studying by yourself in an undisciplined manner, it shows you that there's a much bigger community that's working towards the same objectives as you are, that are struggling with the same things that you are, and you find like-minded people to bond with. And it's not a superficial bond because you're online. These are people whose children's names I remember, people from all over the planet that I've been able to meet, whose homes I've lived in, who I've been able to sit and study with and eat with and pray with. So this is a real movement that you must become a part of if we are to achieve the change that we want to see. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode, family. I wanted to build with you all. I wanted to give you all some of my reflections in building United Black America since 2009, because my tenure is coming to an end. You all know my tenure has been coming to an end. I've had a foot out the door and out of this country for the past 2 or 3 years. My only challenge has been finding my replacements and then building a system that they can implement to keep this thing running and to do it better than I've ever been able to do it before. So here's why that's a challenge, family. We have a lot of misconceptions about nation building, about business building, about what it takes to build a life that's worth living. We think that because we pay lip service to it, that's all that we'll need to do, right? But if you're not able to do the work, then you will not achieve the results that you want to achieve, right? We don't have a movement if we don't have brothers and sisters willing to put in the work. You don't have a business if you don't get up every day and work harder on building that business than you do for any business that you work for. It's hard living the life that you want to live, right? And I want you all to imagine what your perfect life would be like, right? If we removed the contexts of white supremacy, imagine what your perfect life would be like. And then I want you all to think about all the things that you would need to do to lead up to living that absolutely perfect life. It's hard, family. The most important thing when it comes to nation building, organization building, movement building, business building, life building, relationship building is doing the work, right? Are y'all feeling me on this? It's not enough for you all to say, I love you to a person, right? Like if I just told my queen, I love you. Or, I tell the rest of the family. I tell members of this organization all the time, I love you, right? That's me verbally reiterating what I am showing and proving to you. In this organization, we value those who show and prove above those who just say that they're about something. And y'all see this in the conscious community. Brothers and sisters say this and they say that. Brothers and sisters in relationships say this and say that. But what are you doing to show me that you're serious about this? What are you doing to show me that you love me? And I think I've said this in the past. Love is a verb. Love is an action word. It's something that you do. It's not something that you say. It's not a state that you're in. Now, you can be in love, but you've got to demonstrate that love. If you want something, it's not enough for you to say that, you know what, I want this, and then for you to lay back down, for you to go and do something else. If you want something, you are dedicated to chasing that thing that you want with all of your capacity. Now, let me bring it back home. What does this mean in the context of nation building? What does this mean in the context of the Black and conscious community? What this means is, in this community, I've noticed a lot of talking heads. A lot of people, they'll get on the mic, they'll get on these podcasts. You all get on conference calls and say, we need to do this, or I want to do that. I want to take my children out of public schools, right? But you don't do anything to move towards that goal. You know that public schools are tools of miseducation. We heard from Raheem Shabazz a couple of episodes ago on this podcast about the school to prison pipeline. Yet and still, you don't take action. Yet and still, you don't take action. We hear about the statistics, diabetes, preventable illnesses, heart disease, and yet you do not take action. How many of y'all have read Queen Afua's book? How many of you all have gone through an herbal workshop, right? How many of you all can open up your refrigerator right now and pull out life-saving foods? Our ancestor Imhotep said, let your food be your medicine and your medicine be your food. Did he not? Yet and still, y'all are still down at the chicken joint, right? Getting you your 3-piece and collard greens and your buttermilk biscuit. Eating white sugar, eating white flour, drinking white milk. Family, if y'all need to abide by a simple rule, here y'all go. And you're welcome for this, by the way. I ain't even going to charge you all. If it's white, get it out of sight. No white rice, no white milk, no white bread, no white sugar, no white flour, no salt. If it's white, get it out of sight because it ain't right. Y'all feel me? So, just to make my point, it's not enough for us to say that this conscious community is something that's important to us. It's not enough to say that we must fight white supremacy. It's not enough to say that, you know what I'm saying, we need unity, but you refuse to join an organization. What do y'all think unity looks like? Unity don't look like y'all going into an auditorium and everybody, jumping up and down and shouting Harambe and then all y'all going home, right? That's not what unity looks like. Unity looks like us coming together to achieve an objective, right? And if you don't like the mission of one organization, then join another. If you're not feeling the culture of one organization, then keep moving until you find an organization that you fit into, but join an organization, right? That's not even a pitch for United Black America. Of course, I would love every brother and sister to join United Black America. In the organization, we joke that there are only 2 types of people in the conscious community: members of United Black America and people who are not yet members of United Black America. You know what I'm saying? But join an organization that feels and fits right to you. But in this organization, we value workers. It's not the brothers and sisters who sound the best or who look the best who get the rewards here. Not here. You don't get positions of power because you volunteer and you say this is something that I want to do. No, we're going to put you through the ringer. We're going to make sure that you can do the work. We're going to make sure that you can show and prove your commitment to your community. And that's why we're doing this, family. We are doing this because we love our people and we are dedicated to changing the conditions of our people, which means we're going to spend our money. We're going to spend our time. We're going to spend our energy. We're going to spend our frustration. We're going to spend everything that we have to move this needle towards sovereignty for our people. And in doing so, we will achieve sovereignty for ourselves. In liberating our people, we will liberate ourselves. In empowering our people, we empower ourselves. In enriching our people and making our people wealthy, we too will become wealthy in the process. Do you all see how that works, family? So this is the time of year when you all start thinking about your resolutions, right? And, me personally, I live my resolutions on a daily basis. But typically around New Year's, everyone starts setting New Year's resolutions. Resolve to stop talking and to start doing when it comes to this community, right? Put your muscle and your money where your mouth is. Don't just tell people that you love them. Demonstrate to your community that you love it. Demonstrate to your people that you love them. Demonstrate to the community that this is important to you, right? It's time for us to collectively start doing the work and only valuing those who do the work. We don't need more ideas in the conscious community, family. There are a lot of ideas. And some of you all, some of y'all are entertained by going from one YouTube video to the next YouTube video, hearing from this person or that person. Did y'all hear what Dr. Umar Johnson had to say about this? Did y'all hear what Dr. Claude Anderson had to say about that? Did you see such and so on the Breakfast Club? At the end of the day, family, that's not going to do anything to change our condition as a people. Y'all know that, right? At the end of the day, that's not going to do anything to move the needle. All right? So look at the mission of United Black America. Our mission is to spread black consciousness. That by itself is not going to move the needle, which is why we must then fight white supremacy as well. Fight is an action word. Fight is a verb. We're fighting miseducation, right? By correcting what we have been miseducated on with right knowledge. So now we're taking that black consciousness and we're doing the knowledge. I'm talking about practical application, family. You can go through every herbal course on the planet. You can go through every herbal manual on the planet. You can even buy the herbs. But if you don't eat those herbs, if you don't consume those herbs in the forms of teas, tinctures, etc., they're not going to give you any health benefit. So you buy these books and you put them on your shelf. And what? Right? I've read The Miseducation of the Negro. And what? You know, I went to that brother's lecture and he was preaching. And what? Y'all have heard me say this before, family. You don't need a preacher or a motivational speaker to tell you what you already know. But what you are missing is practical application. That's been the primary challenge that I've had as the leader of this organization, finding members of this community who are able and willing to do the work. What I do is difficult. What I do is complicated. What I do is time consuming. What I do is emotionally draining. What I do is frustrating. I don't always have all the answers. And I wouldn't have it any other way, family. See, for a lot of brothers and sisters who want to occupy this position, they underestimate how much work it takes. But for the brothers and sisters who may not know how to do what I do, that's fine. That's not necessarily what I'm looking for. You can always teach people skills, but you can't teach them the strength of character. You can't teach them what they are bringing to the table in terms of their attitude, in terms of their spirit. If you come to this table with a spirit of love and servitude and self-sacrifice for your people, for your community, then you can teach them any skill, and they'll stay committed through that learning curve. That's been my challenge in leading this organization. Now, one of the unforeseen challenges of leading this organization I want to share with you all is the challenge of conflict within our community, right? So there's been a lot of beef in our community. There's been a lot of infiltration in our community, agents coming in, trying to destabilize organizations not because they were hired by the CIA, family. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about agents. I'm talking about average brothers and sisters who have their own personal agenda, who will come into an organization, and if they can't get what it is that they need out of that organization, then they'll go on a destructive warpath or whatever the case is. You know what I'm saying? Our community has been so negatively impacted by the weapons of white supremacy and the conditions that we've been placed in that this has almost become natural behavior for some brothers and sisters, right? And do I fault them? You know, I don't necessarily fault them. I fault a number of different things. I fault myself as a leader because the fault always falls back to you as a leader, family. I don't know if y'all realize that as well. When you're a leader, everything is your fault. Everything is your responsibility, right? You accept all of the consequences of the position that you occupy. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. But as a leader of any organization in the conscious community, any movement in the conscious community, your biggest challenge is dealing with brothers and sisters who have been negatively impacted by white supremacy. In other words, they become suspicious of other brothers and sisters, right? A lot of people get into this organization, and I had one brother tell me that, well, this seems too good to be true, so I'm out. You know what I'm saying? That's white supremacist conditioning. I don't trust another black organization to really achieve its mission or to operate the way it should be operating, right? Or whatever the case is. I've had other brothers and sisters leave this organization or, back off of their responsibilities because we put legal defenses in place against brothers and sisters like that. And their rationale was, well, now y'all are using the same weapons that the oppressor uses. No, absolutely not. The first rule in war, the first rule in business, and the first rule in love, which if you're going to lead an organization in the conscious community, family, it is an act of love. But let me say this again. The first rule in love, the first rule in war, and the first rule in business is protect yourself. Protect yourself. Protect your assets. Protect your flank. Protect your heart. Protect your property. And I want you all to think about that going into the new year. And I don't care if you're listening to this in 2018, 2019, because all these shows are archived on the internet for all eternity. But the first rule in love, the first rule in war, and the first rule in business is protect yourself. All right. That's another reflection that I've come across in building this organization from 0 to 400 members. And then the last reflection that I want to offer you all, because a lot of you all are out there doing your thing and you have our full support, right? be it in business, be it in love, be it in the community. But I want to offer you this. Keep your strong. Keep the strong. So as you build your circle, all right, as you build your community around you, as you bring people into your life, you want to make sure that the people who are strong, positive assets in your life stay that way. Don't drain them. Don't wear them out. Don't take advantage of them, and don't take them for granted. All right? And here's how I came to that revelation. I spent so much time in this organization focusing on the brothers and sisters who didn't necessarily need help. But, you know, they were trying to start something up. They were trying to start some mess. You know what I'm saying? So I would spend all of my time on the phone with them. You know what I'm saying? Showing them that, hey, sister, hey, brother, I'm here for you. I care about you. Whatever issues that you are having, whatever problems that you're having with whatever the circumstances are, we're here to resolve them. But they weren't really interested, those brothers and sisters, in resolving the issue, right? They were just, you know, throwing a tantrum. Now, while I was off on the phone with them, devoting my time, my energy, my resources to them, who wasn't I devoting my time, energy, and resources to? The brothers and sisters who were putting in the work behind the scenes, right? And so all of my attention was devoted to these problem members, right? The people that were there to drain, the people that were there to take. And that took my attention off of the brothers and sisters who not only said that they loved this, but were showing it and proving it on a daily basis behind the scenes by putting in work, right? These are the brothers and sisters who are out there in the cold, feeding the hungry during the holidays, rocking their United Black America lapel pins, you know what I'm saying? The brothers and sisters who I'll throw something up on one of our task boards, and then I'll turn around and it's done. And, you know, they're not asking for any credit. This is what I'm supposed to do, is their usual response, right? There are the brothers and sisters who, you know, there's excuse after excuse and tragedy after tragedy, and they don't know how to deal with these things. Or, you know, they're creating all these issues to avoid doing the work. But if this is something that you're serious about, if you love your people, you love your community, and you want to see the success of the conscious movement, then we've got to take a by any means necessary approach. I've been on conference calls with members of United Black America while my home was on fire. I've been in the hospital preparing for this podcast. Not this one in particular, but in the past. Y'all feel me on that, family? So we've got to take a by any means necessary, no excuses approach going into this new year and going into this new movement, family. That's what it's going to take for us to win. Because I'm going to tell you all what, we are facing an uncompromising enemy. We are moving into a Trump administration. White supremacy is stronger now than it's ever been, and it's taking more and more of our brothers and sisters with them every single day. Those brothers and sisters who are lost to this system of white supremacy, they don't want to see your hypocrisy. They don't want to hear your excuses. They need solutions, and that's what we are here to provide them with. We stand on the front lines against the weapons of white supremacy for our people. No one else. This is the mantle that we've taken up. And by we, I'm talking to you. If you're listening to this and you've listened to this thus far, you're a part of this movement. You may not have a member number with United Black America yet. You might not have earned your leather jacket and beret with the new Black Panther Party yet. You may not have the confidence to speak and to preach on street corners with the Hebrew Israelites yet. But if you're here, you're a member of this movement. But that means you're going to have to do the work, family. The time for us to pay lip service to what we believe, what we want, what we love is over. Now, family, it's time for us to fight for it. All right, I'm done running my mouth. Those are a few of the reflections that I wanted to offer you all who are out here doing your thing in, you know, my time building United Black America. And also, you know, just to share with you all some behind the scenes. That's what's going on in my personal thought process, in the leadership's thought process. And we do have a leadership team that is shaping up to be a powerful one, right? Following the fall of United Black America, or our hiatus rather, back in January, we've come back stronger than ever. We've learned our lessons. This is an important part of your evolution as a king or a queen, and a part of our evolution as a community, right? There are lessons that we can learn from the fall of Kemet. There are lessons that we can learn from the great kingdoms of Ghana, Songhai, Mali. There are lessons that we can learn from people like Robert Mugabe, Jomo Kenyatta, good ones and bad ones, right? So it's up to us to take the lessons that we've learned from the past, bring them into the present so that we can evolve this movement into the future of Black consciousness, a new golden age of African civilization. All right, again, we're going to take a short media break. We're going to come back on the other side with our Do the Knowledge segment, and then you all stay tuned as we roll out the red, black, and green carpet for our guest today, Jay Morrison. Peace. Award-winning producer Raheem Shabazz continues the elementary genocide documentary series with the school-to-prison pipeline, exposing the socially engineered mechanisms created by our government and utilizing the public school system to label African American males as work-for-hire targets within the U.S. penal system. Part 2 of the film, titled Elementary Genocide 2, The Board of Education versus the Board of Incarceration, takes an even deeper look at the history of America's school system and how it was made to subjugate Black Americans. This is on track to be one of the most discussed films in Black America, featuring Dr. Umar Johnson, Dr. Boyce Watkins, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing, Dr. Steve Perry, and more. The documentary is available at elementarygenocide.com. Order your copy now.
The last thing, though, that they never wanted us to learn was the science of what? Finance. Did y'all hear me? We the only people on the planet, brothers and sisters, that still blame the white man for 95% of our problems, but spend 97% of our money with them. Did you hear me? If we want to just make the lecture real short, that Black economics don't need no big volume. All you need is one statement. The principal code of ethics for Black economics is shop with your brother before you shop with another. That's simple Black economics. Shop with your brother before you shop with another. That means that anything you need and you want, you should find a Black person in your sphere that sells that need and want. And if they sell it and you got to drive a few miles farther, drive a few miles farther. If they sell it and you got to pay a few dollars more, so what? Pay a few dollars more. We are hard on Black businesses, but we are real merciful on white people's businesses. Oh, y'all don't believe me? Okay, y'all still don't understand what I'm saying. I'm going to show you what circulate means. I got a grocery store. My brother, you're going to have a dry cleaner. Insurance. Okay? Sister, school. You want to just, or you got it now. Now, I'm a grocery store man, right? But I got to get my clothes cleaned. So now I'm taking it to my brother who has a dry cleaner. I'm giving him some of my money. But he operates a dry cleaner. He's got to have insurance, right? So he has to give some of the money that I gave him from the grocery store to clean my stuff to the insurance man to insure the dry cleaners. But the insurance man, he has 3 children, and they must be educated. So he has to take some of the money that I gave as a grocery store owner to the dry cleaner that he gave to the insurance man. Now he's got to give that to my sister for tuition for his babies. But guess what? The baby's got to eat. So she has to come to the grocery store to get some food to make sure that that's one time. What that means is that we are turning money into energy. Right. And I'm giving you the energy when you need it the most. You're giving him the energy when he needs it most. He's giving it to her. She gives it to me. But as time goes on, I'm going to be living off the same dollar I spent. That's what has to happen in the black community. Shop with your brother before you shop with another.
Hey, peace family, welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed that media segment. And today we're going to be building on the autobiography of Malcolm X in this segment. This is what we call our Do the Knowledge segment. This is where we build on some of the most important books in the conscious community, books that I think every brother and sister should read. And the autobiography of Malcolm X is really the ABCs. I mean, this is going back to, the start of your journey into consciousness. There are so many lessons that you'll be able to reflect on from this autobiography that we included it on our list of 12 books that every member of United Black America are required to read. And not just read, but do the knowledge on, family. You all know that I think that there are two factors that contribute to the success of any venture. First of all, your ability to get the right knowledge. And second of all, your ability to do the knowledge, to implement that knowledge, right? And so that's what today's build is going to be on, acquiring right knowledge. They say that we're in the information age, but I don't necessarily think that that is true in the way that all of you all are thinking of this, right? Yeah, we have access to research and knowledge, and, that access is easier than it's ever been in human history. That's true. But a lot of the things that you find online are bullshit. They're coming from marketers. They lack substance. And what I'm talking about are things like YouTube videos, right? Things like podcasts where people just get on and they laugh and they chop it up. And those are good too. But you're not really getting any information. You're not getting any knowledge. And so the best place to acquire knowledge remains books. We have 5,000 years of human history in writing, probably longer than that, depending on what we can find. Chances are over the course of 5,000 years, someone has come across a problem that you faced, and they've solved that problem, and they've written about it. So the secrets to the problems that you're facing and your success lie in books, if you will just pick them up and read them. So again, we're building on the autobiography of Malcolm X. Let me read this passage to you all. And I'm going to try and read this all the way through without inserting my opinions and comments. Y'all know how I do, family, but here we go. El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz writes, "It was because of my letters that I happened to stumble upon starting to acquire some kind of a homemade education. I became increasingly frustrated at not being able to express what I wanted to convey in letters that I wrote, especially to the letters I wrote to Mr. Elijah Muhammad, peace be upon him. In the street, I had been the most articulate hustler out there. I commanded attention whenever I said something, but now, just me trying to write simple English, I not only was not articulate, I wasn't even functional. How would I sound writing in slang the way I would say it? Something like, 'Look, Daddy, let me pull your coat about a cat, Elijah Muhammad.' So many who hear me today, or hear me somewhere in person or on television, or those who've read something that I've said or written, they'll think I went to school far beyond my 8th grade. This impression is due entirely to my prison studies. It really started back in Charleston prison when a man that I met first made me feel envious of his stock of knowledge. This man named Bimby had always taken charge of any conversation he was in, and I tried to emulate him. But every book that I picked up had a few sentences that didn't contain anywhere from one to all the words that might as well have been in Chinese. In other words, he's saying that he would pick up a book, he'd read a few sentences, and it wouldn't make sense to him. When I would skip words that I didn't understand, I really ended up with very little of an idea of what the book said. So for a while, I went through book reading motions, but pretty soon I would even quit those motions unless I had received the motivation that I did from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. I saw that the best thing that I could do was to get a hold of a dictionary and to study and learn some words. I was lucky enough to reason also that I should try and improve my penmanship because it was sad. I couldn't even write in a straight line. It was both ideas together that moved me to request a dictionary along with some tablets and pencils from the prison colony school. So I spent a few days just rifling uncertainly through the dictionary's pages, and I had never realized so many words existed. I didn't even know which words I needed to learn, so finally I just started some kind of action. I started copying. In my slow, painstaking, ragged handwriting, I copied into my tablet everything printed on that first page down to the punctuation marks. I believe it took me a day, and then I read back to myself everything that I'd written on the tablet, over and over, aloud, to myself. I read my own handwriting. And I woke up the next morning thinking about the words that I'd written the day before, immensely proud to realize that not only had I written so much at one time, but I'd written words that I never knew were in the world. Moreover, with a little effort, I could also remember many of what those words meant. I reviewed the words whose meanings I didn't remember, and the funny thing is, from the dictionary's first page right now, that aardvark springs to mind. The dictionary had a picture of it, a long-tailed, long-eared, burrowing African mammal, which lives off termites caught by sticking out its tongue as an anteater does for ants. So I was so fascinated that I copied the dictionary's next page and the next. Between what I wrote in my tablet and during the rest of my time in prison, I would guess I wrote 1 million words. I suppose it was inevitable that as my word base broadened, I could for the first time pick up a book and read and now begin to understand what the book was saying. Anybody who's read a great deal can imagine the new world that opened up for me. Let me tell you something. From then until I left that prison, every free moment I had, if it was not spent reading in the library, I was reading on my bunk. You couldn't have gotten me out of a book with a wedge. Between Mr. Muhammad's teachings, my correspondences, my visitors, and my reading of books, months passed in prison without me even thinking about the fact that I was incarcerated. In fact, up until then, I had never been so truly free in my life. The Norfolk Prison Colony's library was in the school building. So as you can imagine, especially in prison, where there was heavy emphasis on rehabilitation, an inmate was smiled upon if he could demonstrate an intense interest in books. There were actually quite a few well-read inmates, especially the popular debaters. Some were said by many to be practically walking encyclopedias, and they were almost celebrities. No university would ask any student to devour the literature as I did when this new world of reading opened up to me. I read more in my room than in the library itself. An inmate who was known to read a lot could check out more than the maximum number of books permitted per inmate, and I preferred reading in isolation in my own room. When I had progressed to reading serious reading every night about 10 p.m., I would be outraged with the lights out. It always seemed to catch me right in the middle of something engrossing. But fortunately, right outside my door was a corridor light that cast a glow into my room. The glow was enough to read by once my eyes adjusted to it. So when lights out came, I would sit on the floor where I could continue reading in that glow. The teachings of Mr. Muhammad stressed how history had been whitened. When white men had written history books, the black man was simply left out. I'll never forget how shocked I was when I began reading about slavery's total horror. It made such an impact upon me that later it became one of my favorite subjects when I became a minister of Mr. Muhammad. The world's most monstrous crime, the sin and the blood on the white man's hands, are almost impossible to believe. I read descriptions of their atrocities, saw those illustrations of black slave women tied up and flogged with whips, of black mothers watching their babies being dragged off, never to be seen by their mothers again, of dogs after slaves and of fugitive slave catchers, evil white men with whips and clubs and chains and guns. Book after book showed me how the white man had brought upon the world's black, brown, and red and yellow peoples every variety of suffering and exploitation. I saw how since the 16th century, the so-called Christian trader white man began to ply the seas in his lust for Asian and African empires and plunder and power. I read and I saw how the white man had never gone amongst the non-white peoples bearing the cross in the true manner and spirit of Christ's teachings, which were meek, humble, and Christ-like. I've often reflected on the new vistas that reading opened up to me. I knew right there in prison that reading had changed my life forever. As I see it today, the ability to read awoke something long dormant in me, some craving to be mentally alive. I wasn't seeking a degree, and I definitely wasn't seeking any status. My homemade education gave me, with every additional book that I read, a little bit more sensitivity to the deafness, dumbness, and blindness that was afflicting the black race in America. Not long ago, an Englishman telephoned me from London asking questions, and one of his questions was, "What was your alma mater?" I told him books. You will never catch me with the free 15 minutes in which I'm not studying something I might feel is able to help the black man. So, family, that's coming straight from the lips of El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, underscoring the importance of the acquisition of knowledge or reading. Within this organization, our leaders are learners. We ask them to read and to do the knowledge on more than many brothers and sisters go through in their entire academic careers. And that's how it should be, family. Education comes before our liberation. Look, a lot of y'all remember that movie Nat Turner, right? A lot of y'all saw that movie. Great movie. I highly suggest y'all go and see it. But it wasn't until Nat Turner started reading the Bible and then looking at the world around him that he started to do something about it. Y'all feel me on that? So like I said at the beginning of this reading, every problem that we face as a community has already been solved by our ancestors, and it's been written down. We have but to open up those books, not the YouTube channels, right? Not all these other media out there, but books. You have got to physically hold and read and learn from books. We've talked about why in previous episodes. So I want you all to go to that list of 12 books that we recommend all members of the conscious community read. Definitely pick this up. But nothing can substitute reading. I don't care if you didn't go to college. I don't care if you didn't go to high school. I don't care if you're almost functionally illiterate. So too was Malcolm X. So too was the minister. What did he do? He picked up a dictionary. He wrote down the words that he didn't understand, and he remained committed to reading for the liberation of himself and his people. He wrote in the closing of that passage that you will never catch me with the free 15 minutes in which I'm not studying something I feel might be able to do what? Help the black man. And I'll interject woman. So don't just read to read. Don't just read to sound smart. Don't just read to pass the time. Don't just grab a book because someone recommends it. Grab that book to help yourself and to help your people. Leaders are learners, family. All right, we're going to take another short media break, and then we're going to roll out the red, the black, and the green carpet for our brother, Jay Morrison. Y'all stay tuned for that. Peace. Hey, what's going on, family? I hope you all are enjoying today's episode. I know you are because we worked hard on it. I wanted to take a quick minute to talk to all the business owners who are listening. So if you're a business owner and you're looking to purchase a home but have no idea where to start, The House Hustle, Insider Secrets of Buying a Home for Black Entrepreneurs, was just released by Brian Hanley. You can find it at thehousehustle.com, and it's also available for pre-order on Amazon. So this is the book that is going to help you qualify for a mortgage, find the right home, reap all the benefits financially, and plan for the long term to ensure that home ownership builds generational wealth. Brian Hanley himself has a wealth of experience as a homeowner at the age of 23, and having worked in the mortgage banking industry for some years now, he knows all the tools and techniques to help you navigate your first home purchase. So definitely check out thehousehustle.com. We highly recommend it. Brian knows what he's talking about. The book is also available for pre-order or immediate download on Kindle on Amazon.com. All right, family, welcome back. So on this episode, I want to introduce you all to a man that I've been following for going on years now. This is a king who lives his life mission, and he's led by example when it comes to economic empowerment, specifically for our people. And he's done that by building a multi-million-dollar portfolio of real estate. He's taught hundreds, if not probably thousands of students now. So you probably seen him on his interview with The Breakfast Club, or you might have caught his Fox News debate with, I think it was Charles Payne, where he did an excellent job of shutting that dude down on air. Or you might have seen him on, numerous appearances on the Today Show. Well, now you're going to hear from him right here, right now. So you all join me in rolling out the red, black, and green carpet for my man, Mr. Jay Morrison. What's up, King? How you feeling?
I'm well, King. Thank you. And I love that red, black, and green carpet. I'm stepping on it with pride.
That's right. No doubt. No doubt. Glad to have you, family. It's been a long time coming. So I want to break this interview up into 3 parts. First, I want to introduce you to the audience because despite your very prolific body of work, there are many in our community who might not be familiar with you just yet. Then I want to talk about one of your specific areas of expertise, which is real estate, obviously. And finally, I want to talk about some of the things you're doing to socially advance the condition of our people. So, let's go ahead and get started. Jay, you want to tell the family a little bit about you and your background and how you came into real estate and your mindset and all of those things. I'm just going to let you flow and glow.
Oh, appreciate it, King. And again, thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on this platform with you. I don't take it lightly or take it for granted. And just peace to all the kings and queens out there. And I call us kings and queens because we need to intentionally elevate ourselves. And as Malcolm said, we suffer from social degradation. So if we're degraded, we got to be elevated. My journey, and a lot of times when I speak at schools or keynote engagements, I pick and choose between whether I start from the beginning of my story or tell you about the end and then reverse. So since we talked about a little bit about what I've accomplished, I have owned, managed, and advised on over $20 million in real estate for celebrity clients ranging from Angela Yee from The Breakfast Club, Deshaun Jackson, Mo Wilkerson from the Jets, and a host of others. I've done initiatives with Young Jeezy and a bunch of, names that we all recognize. I have been a real estate expert on a Today Show. I've been a celebrity realtor for NBC's Open House NYC. I was the first African-American male hired by Sotheby's International Realty. They're a prominent property franchise in New Jersey. And Sotheby's is the world's leading luxury real estate company. But the cool part about that, and I am now currently a 3-time author and a 2-time best-selling author. My 2 latest book releases, Lord of My Land, 5 Steps to Home Ownership, and The Solution, How Africans in America Achieve Unity, Justice, and Repair, right? So I have this resume, I guess you will, and I have a school that has been in existence now for 4 years. December, this month actually makes 4 years our school's been in existence, the Jay Morrison Academy, where we teach financial literacy, wealth building strategies, and real estate investment, and have taught in our school alone, over 6,000 students, but wow. Nationally, just through virtual mentorship, I probably would say I've comfortably mentored hundreds of thousands of people virtually, with over probably, I think we're at like 7 or 8 million views now on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. But the cool part about all that, the blessed part about my story and testimony is that I've been in this space now for about 12 years. I just turned 36 years old, October 30th, 2016. But I walked into this space literally leaving a corner on 10th and Springfield in Newark, New Jersey, selling dope. And I spent 10 years, from 15 to 25, in the dope game, in the drug game. Started selling drugs at 15 years old. I dropped out of high school my junior year, hit the streets, left home, suffered a lot of abuse in my home, emotional, physical, et cetera. There's a lot of drug abuse in my home. Grew up in poverty, free lunch and food stamps, welfare, WIC lines, the whole bit. Born to a teenage mom, and took all that adversity in life and figured that my way out was going to be the block, was going to be the corner. I mean, my mom sold drugs, my step-pop sold drugs, my dad sold drugs, my granddad sold drugs, my uncle sold drugs. Like, that's what we did. Our family was a family of hustlers. So I took that same route. Ended up going back to high school my senior year, what would be my senior year for extra credits, and I did graduate high school. But 4 months after I graduated, I landed myself on Rikers Island in New York with an A2 felony for a quarter kilo of coke and a loaded .38 handgun, and was facing 3 years to life in prison at 18 years old, thanks to the mandatory minimum sentences. And so I would serve time in New York prison and then come home, and instead of jail reforming you, jail just or prison these days doesn't reform you. It's really just criminal school.
Absolutely.
I went to prison.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, I went to prison and I just learned how to sell drugs better. I just learned new ways to cook up, new ways to compress coke, new ways to get stash boxes and get inspired by other kingpins, et cetera, and came home on a tangent and started, just back to the block, hustling more. And, by the time I was 22, I would catch 2 more felonies and end up serving another 18 months in prison in Maryland for a drug trafficking charge. I was facing 15 years at 20 years old. But luckily, for the second time, the police illegally searched my vehicle, and so I was able to get the charges downgraded due to a legal search and seizure, and I only had to serve 18 months as opposed to 15 years due to the cops' overzealousness. But I learned a lot in prison about becoming a man, though, but still, again, even in Maryland prison, down Eastern Correctional Institution, they had me locked in a cell for 18 hours a day with a cellmate who was a double lifer. He was serving 2 life sentences for 2 homicides, and he had 30 years in prison. And his name was Michael Lipscomb Bay. He was a Moorish Science Temple of America, member, a follower. And so Mike gave me, being locked up for 30 years, he's read every book there ever was and spoke to every dope boy and gangster there ever was to come through the Maryland system. And so he instilled a lot of what he read and learned into me during our time together in that cell every day. And it really matured me and grew me up really fast. And then coming home from prison I went home to an intense supervision parole called ISP, where you had to have a curfew and journal and breathalyzer test and urine test and all this kind of stuff. And was served 18 months on this parole. And that's where I was introduced to the mortgage industry while I was on parole, because I had to have a job. And I took a liking to it just because when I first got into it, and I actually was on my way back to jail because I was so tired of parole that I had decided at 21, 22 years old that I was going to turn myself back into prison, finish my time, and come home on no parole because parole was so frustrating. And before I did that, a mentor at a men's group that we had to go to on Saturdays, Pastor Antoine Thomas, said, before you turn yourself back into jail, I want you to try a job at this mortgage company my wife works at. And so I went to the mortgage company and, I had no idea what a mortgage was, no idea what a FICO score, credit score was, no idea the processing of a loan application or any of that. But they walked me through it, and my grandmother gave me a shot to refinance her house. And then my aunt gave me an opportunity to refinance her house as well. And so I did both of their refinances, mostly guided by the older loan officers in the company. But I made $6,000 off just pushing papers. And that did something to me, to see that in the professional world, you can make real paper without standing on the corner, without carrying a gun, without risking your freedom. And so that definitely planted a seed with me, and I would end up graduating the parole program. And unfortunately, I went right back to the streets. And my mom ended up being in a situation where a house that I helped her get, where she just, got an FHA house, 3% down, 3.5% down. And it was just a $100,000 house. But my stepfather, rest in peace, he was still suffering from a lifelong heroin addiction. And so most of the money in our household, in my mom's household, was going out of the household to support his habit. And my mom was behind on taxes on the property, and she was going into foreclosure. And so at that time, I left the parole program, and I went right back to the streets. Like, I left the mortgage company, and I went back to what I knew. And, I was getting money, I was doing well. And when I found out my mom was in foreclosure, at the time I had a Lincoln Navigator I paid cash for. And I said, there's no way I could be riding around in luxury and my mom is, in foreclosure. So I sold my truck. I paid off my mom's foreclosure. I downgraded vehicles. And my mother told me, and I speak about this in my first book, Hip Hop to Homeowners. But my mom told me, she said, Jay, and she calls me Maine, right? Because my born name is Jermaine. And she said, Maine, she said, when I sell this property, I'm going to take care of you. I said, don't worry about it, Mom. But what we didn't know is that the property she bought for $100,000, 2 to 3 years later, had went up in value $100,000. It was worth now $200,000 just in 2-3 years. The property had appreciated over $100,000 or about $100,000. So my mom ended up selling the property and cashing out for the first time in our family history my mom ever had over $10,000, at one time. And so, we profited about 90 plus thousand, and my mom gave me 33,000 just for helping her out with the foreclosure. And that again planted another seed, and a light bulb went off. Like, man, I just made 33,000 off an accidental flip, with my mom, off this property. And I thought about how much hustling I got to do in the streets to make 33,000, and how much risking I got to do to make 33,000. And so, being the young knucklehead that I was, I took that 33,000. And I went and bought some Coke with it and went back to the streets. But the seeds were planted. And so I had some close calls, some more close calls and federal investigations that were happening and things that just were put pressure on me. And I was, again, hustling in North New Jersey. And I'm, in a really rough part of town, Bloods and Crips, real killers and gangsters. And I was turning 25 years old. And I had to ask myself, I was like, Jay, this is not where you saw your life at, 15, 16 when you started in this game. I really thought the drug game was going to be my way out. Like, I really was excited about it. And now here I am about to be 25 years old with 3 felonies in 3 different states and, a bunch of other close calls that could have put me away forever. And now here I am on the corner in the roughest city in New Jersey, maybe Newark or Camden.
Right.
And here I am on the corner with 5 a.m. with blood gang members, selling heroin and supplying them with heroin. And I only could see that ending bad for me. It was going to end with me being in debt or jail.
True indeed.
You know what I mean? And I couldn't. And I tried to reimagine it though. I tried to kind of gas myself, and I couldn't. I couldn't even pretend to myself like it was going to end good. Like I couldn't even be that ignorant. I knew it was going to end bad. Like I knew like somebody was going. I was the big fish in that pond. And so that day I did what few do in the dope game. I challenged myself and I said, well, are you a hustler or are you a drug dealer? Because a drug dealer can only sell drugs. A hustler can hustle anything. And so I said, if I'm really a hustler, if I'm really this guy, if I'm really this smart, just charismatic, if I'm all that I think that I am, I should be able to walk into any field or industry and be successful. And so I challenged myself that day to quit what I was doing, to quit the drug game, the dope game, and to try real estate, which I had already had some experience with at the mortgage company with my mom and other avenues, and to try it full time and see what would happen if I put my full energy. From 15 to 25, I didn't put my full energy into anything other than dope. So I had to ask myself, what would happen? What's that look like if you put this full energy, like not 1 foot in, 1 foot out, but like full steam ahead into this real estate industry? What could you be? And so I still had some drugs left, but I had already made my mind up. I'm really an extremist. And so I gave the rest of my work away to my partner and said, here, you can have this, you can finish this. I took what I had and I left. I broke my trap phone. I left the block and I never went back. And I, went and bought some khakis and some slacks and some button-ups. And I went and talked to one of my old mentors who had a mortgage company he was starting. And I went and applied for my license. And I went full steam ahead, just like cold turkey, into the real estate business. And the first year was really challenging, getting used to professional etiquette. I had no idea even how to send the email. I didn't understand, how to dialogue properly in a professional environment and a bunch of other things. But through that learning curve, within the first year, I would make a little bit of money. I struggled my first 8-9 months. To the point where I was considering going back to the streets because I just was broke. And I was used to being a man and having money. And it humbled me to be in a position where I had to actually borrow money from my friends and from my mom. And, I was pursuing a whole new career in life and a whole new lifestyle. But right before I was giving up and going back, I had a bunch of deals in my pipeline closed, like 7 deals closed in 1 month, and I made $30,000. And then I think I made $13,000. And the next month I made $30,000. And then after that, 4 months later, I closed a foreclosure deal and made $90,000. And I never looked back. And within 3 years, I made my first $1 million in real estate. And after that, became multi. And that's kind of how the story progressed.
So there are a few things that I heard there that I really want to emphasize to the audience listening. And I think mindset is critical. So my question to you is, we kind of see the development of your mindset. We see the changes taking place over time that took you from the block to where you are today. My question to you is, having seen both sides, right? You've seen the very wealthy and the very successful, and you've seen, the brothers and sisters on the corner. What are some of the similarities and the differences in the mindset, and what mindset would we need if we are listening to this and standing on the block and wondering, how do we get from where we are to where a king like Jay Morrison is in terms of mindset? Because I think you would agree with this. It has to start with how you see yourself, how you see the world around you, the mindset that you possess concerning everything that's going on around you.
It is, King, and I'm so glad we're having this conversation on this day, because that's a lot of what I realized last night as I was telling you in our sound check about this initiative I want to do in Atlanta called Save a Dope Boy. And all this, it starts with the mind shift. It starts with one, I was looking at that, right? I was looking at how do I teach somebody this, right? How can we scale this and give it to all our brothers and sisters who are caught in that struggle, which are many of them? And what I realized was a couple things happened on that corner when I had this reflection. And it literally was like a movie. I literally was on the corner by myself watching my workers. And it's like 6 in the morning, 5, 6 in the morning, because at that time we had to get up and sell dope early. And I'm just by myself looking in the air, reflecting. And a couple of the key points was, one, I realized that this is my life. No matter what I've been through, no matter all the things that I could blame it on, no matter the things that happened in my home environment, my father leaving me at 3 months, my stepdad, being a tyrant in our household, seeing my mom being abused, all these things I could pinpoint that had me angry and had me not give a what about life, right? Because that's really what it was. A lot of times we go through so much drama and trauma in our environment, in the hood or in our households, that we just don't care no more. But what I realized is that me not caring only affected me. When I went to prison, I had to serve my time. Like, that didn't affect nobody else.
That's right.
So what I realized is that the choices that I made were only going to affect me first and foremost. And so I was like, damn, I don't want to, I don't like jail food. I don't like showering with men. And I like my freedom.
That's right.
What I'm saying? And it was like, if I continued to do what I was doing, it only was gonna lead me to eventually eating jail food or going back to 20 minutes in the shower. And that's just not my thing. So I was like, in order for me to avoid those kind of, or with me on a curb with my head leaking on the ground. So in order for me to guarantee that I can avoid those situations, I had to do some things differently. And so that was one thing, right? I call it just loving yourself. You got to love this one life that God gave you enough that you actually, like, it's the real YOLO. So you can say YOLO, you only live once, so you just throw your life away. I say YOLO, you only live once, you got to make the most out of it.
Absolutely.
It's not one thing. It's like making the most out of this one you got. And knowing that if you risk your freedom on them corners or doing these scams or doing whatever, like, you putting yourself at risk to have a whack life, right? So behind bars and someone telling you chow's up, you like get up 6 in the morning and lights out at 10, like, that's a whack life. And a lot of people don't know the jail experience. So you only see it on TV. You don't know what it's like in real life. So a lot of these young boys run around the streets and toting their guns on Instagram and all of that because, like, they ain't do no time. So or they like being in jail. That's their thing. So that was one thing, part of mindset, loving yourself and loving your life. The second thing was I realized is that even though I thought I was bright and charismatic and I was handsome and all the other kind of things, I wasn't doing anything with my life that my mom could be proud of or my daughter could be proud of. At the time, my daughter was 7 years old. And I would go to the parent days at our school. And, when they asked, what's your dad do? I had to say, oh, yeah, I'm in real estate. But I wasn't doing a thing in real estate other than standing on the corner or supplying the corner.
Mm.
And so I realized, like, if I keep this path, I could buy my daughter some Jordans. Yeah, she got diamond earrings. But I can't be anything she could be proud of. And the crazy part is to see my same daughter, Anna, today, who was 7 when I left the block, and to see her today at 17, years old, where she's making her senior class valedictorian speeches at one of the most prestigious private schools in the country, and is looking at Princeton and Brown University and can be proud that her dad is on Fox News or CNN or Today Shows or 3-time author. Like, that was part of my motivation, is that I could be the person I am today that my daughter can be proud of. And not, like, proud of just secretly because her dad got some money from how he hustles, but proud of because her dad actually is building a legacy and being somebody influential in the world.
True
so
indeed.
That was another part of the motivation is who you do it for. And one of the most common excuses we say on the corner as dope boys and ex-dope boys and girls is that we always say, I'm doing it to provide a way for my family. I'm doing it to feed my family. That's one of the poorest excuses ever. Because the reality is when you get locked up, who feeds your family then?
Exactly.
So you hustling to feed your family now, but now you get locked up, or somebody try to rob you, you got to shoot them, or somebody try to take over your block and you got to muscle them, or whatever happens in the underworld, and now you're doing 7 years, you're doing 12 years like my homeboy Fat Jack, or you're doing 19 like my homeboy Yell, or you're doing 9 like my homeboy Black, but then who's feeding your family then when you're doing 12? So it's like you did it to feed your family, but now you left your family hanging for 12 years. So that right there was another awakening for me. And then it was the last point was what I said when we talk about challenging ourselves. It's like, yo, if you really the guy, if you really the girl, if you really the king or the boss queen, you really got this hustle, you should be able to take that hustle anywhere and go make it. It should not be reduced to just what you can do in the streets or illegal activity or crime or tearing down your community. You should be able to go from the block to the boardroom and run circles around them. And that's exactly what I did. I go to any of these meetings, I run circles around I have no college degree, haven't stepped a foot in college. Well, you put me in any corporate environment, any intellectual environment, I'm gonna run circles around anybody in that room.
So what I'm hearing is the differences in mindset are a short-term vision. You made the reference to dope boys feeding their family, and they're looking at the short-term results of their behavior versus a long-term vision. You talked about your daughter and what you're building and establishing a legacy. You talked about selfishness versus doing it to serve and doing it for a cause and people beyond yourself. And you talked about showing improving at elevation. And I really appreciated that point. It's a point that I constantly emphasize. If you are everything that you say you are, because you're calling yourself a king, but you can't call yourself a king if you're beating your woman, if you're beating your queen. You call yourself a king, but you can't call yourself a king if you are subdued by the challenges of life easily, if you have no resilience, if you can't show and prove what it is that you're preaching. And also earlier on, I think one of the keys to success is mentorship, because you mentioned, I think the brother's name was Michael Bay in prison. You mentioned your men's group. You mentioned senior officers that mentored you along that process. And again, that's something that I think is so important. And I know you run a mentorship with your real estate school, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But so mentorship, vision, service, and showing improving that elevation. Would you agree those are the keys to your success and the shift in the mindset that you made?
I think you summed it up perfectly, King. I think that point of showing improving, I think, is a big one. It's like if you really want to show improve, and it's like I said, if you really a hustler, you really want to show improve, then you should be able to take your hustle to anywhere. Like, it's like LeBron. If you're really a ball player, you should be able to take your talents to South Beach or take your talents to Cleveland. No matter what team you put me on, we're going to win. And you should have that same elevation and mindset, whether you on the corner to the corner office or from the block to the boardroom, it should be the same.
I want to talk about how you made the jump, and not just in terms of your mindset, but I'm talking about in terms of your business systems. This is something that a lot of young brothers and sisters really struggle with when they decide to legitimize themselves. So, and this is something I want some personal advice from you on as well. I want to talk about how you built your team, how you built your business system, obviously without giving away anything proprietary. But is that something that you want to go on? In other words, how did you build your empire? How did you go from being a one-man show with all your charisma to bringing other people into the vision and bringing on the processes and products that you needed to get to establishing your real estate academy, establishing all the other things that you're doing now? Do you want to share any of that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to. I think it's a big part of how we grow as a community. You hit it, again, very good point. Because many of us start off with entrepreneur and great ideas, great vision, and all the charisma and intangibles, but we have no idea how to run an operation and no idea how to run systems. What helped me a little bit when I went into business is that I always approached it the same way I approach things in the streets. So I took a lot of intangibles that I used in my former life, and I brought it into the business world. So even when I was in the streets, like when I would start hustling, I start off on the block and maybe I'm, wholesaling and I'm working my money up. Now I got a little bit of weight and I'm selling some weight. But my goal was always to replace myself on a block with workers so that I could play the back position, I can quarterback. And then once I had my workers working the block, then I want to replace myself in that position with the lieutenant to oversee my workers so I can go and do other things. And so I always look to scale up and kind of duplicate myself and work my way out of my business. And that's the same way I approached it as I got into real estate. So as I started making money in the mortgage industry as a loan officer and as a realtor and as an investor, I then was like, all right, I got it's like about getting a system down, getting a process down, procedures, like how your show runs. And then you got to train somebody or people on how your show runs and be very intentional about duplicating yourself.
Right.
So it was like, all right, I'm doing this in this mortgage company. This is my process is like. So I remember. So I want to say that part is one part that I brought to the table. The second part, what you said earlier, is mentorship. A lot of us, we avoid the curve of having mentors and getting a roadmap. Get a blueprint from somebody else, even if you got to pay for it. It's like when I was in the streets, I wanted to learn how to make, turn 1 ounce into 2 ounces. And a Spanish dude from Camden was willing to show me. He wanted me to pay him. I paid him, but then I knew it forever. Right. So it's like the same thing. It's like any education. Like we pay to go to college and all this money to go to community colleges and colleges or trade schools to learn a craft, to learn trade, to learn proprietary information that we can hopefully leverage and use to make money later.
Right. Well, let me ask you this, though. When you phase yourself out and you work your way up the value chain, so you were the lieutenant overseeing the workers, doesn't that take money out of your pocket? Doesn't that cut, if you have to replace yourself with a lieutenant who's overseeing these workers, that's somebody that you have to pay, and that's money coming out of your pocket. So my question is, how did you profitably work yourself up the value chain?
Well, the idea is that you make enough, right? You get enough activity, enough in your pipeline, enough business activity, enough flow that it's worth it for you to, because remember, every business owner and entrepreneur, your goal should not to be work in your business. That just makes you an employee for yourself. Your goal is not to work in your business, it's to work your way out of your business so you can work on your business. Right, and so a lot of times, right? So I'm saying that again, your goal is not to work in your business. Your goal should be to work your way out of your business so you can work on your business. That's how you grow your business. So that's that long-term mentality versus short-term mentality. See, a lot of times we want everything quick, oatmeal. We want microwave, we want an instant. But if you look at it from a long-term play, and again, it kind of goes back to the streets a little bit, is like if you look at the streets, the biggest profit margin is the guy on the corner. The guy on the corner could take, just say back in the day, it was a $20 gram of Coke and make 5 20s out of it and make $100 off $20, right? He had the biggest profit margin, the guy standing on the corner, but he had the most risk and the most exposure, as opposed to the guy that's 3 people removed selling weight. He might only make $100 or $200 or $300 off an ounce, but he's selling 30 of them a week. So I always believed in a volume approach. It's just like in the mortgage industry, right? So let's take it out of the streets, take it in the boardroom. So in the mortgage industry, I could make all the money closing all my clients, right? I could keep all the money and close all my clients. Or I can train other people to close more clients, and I just make some money off of all of them.
Got it.
And so I looked at it as a volume approach. I'll take less in the short term, but to have more in the long term because I can make more of those people doing more, and it frees my time up to now go use my talent and charisma and smarts and intellect and all that other stuff to go do other projects and create other ventures, or to work on my business and find ways to scale my business. But if you're always caught doing the day-to-day nitty-gritty, you can never work on scaling your business because you're too caught in your business.
Got it.
So that's the value. Even if you take shorts on the actual right now money based on what you can make right now, as long as you got your system and operation flowing, and even if you're breaking even by doing that, and you got people working for you, you now have all this free time to figure out your next moves and angles, and that's really how you start to scale up and grow your business.
Got it. So if I understand this correctly, you're building your volume, you're building your business, you're implementing, documenting, and kind of keeping track of your systems. And then when you hit a certain point where it's worth it for you to work yourself up out of that position, you move up the value chain, and the difference in that volume goes to the person, I guess you would say one rank or one position beneath you as, again, you work yourself up that value chain. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. It's no different than what you're doing, King. It's like, what you do, there's a process to what you do. So from the moment that you start a Skype and you invite your guest on, to the point you do your sound check, to what you do with SWATA, to what you do this, you could bullet point those same things out and have someone run these shows, and you say, you know what, well, I want to scale up and work on TV now. So I'm going to start introducing slowly. You start introducing a guest host, right? So people start getting familiar with them. The next thing you know, you're not there one day. Your guest host takes over. And then, you're back again. Then your guest host takes over again. But while you're doing that, you're creating a process, and you're creating someone to supplement you just being the main host, while you're now able to go out on these days and go work on your TV or your next play. And so that's why the process is so important.
I feel that. So before we jump over to your Real Estate Academy. Anything else you want to add on to how you built your empire, business systems, advice you would give to any brothers and sisters who are no longer on the corner, but they haven't reached that corner office yet? They're still kind of on the ground floor. Any other advice you have?
Yeah, one of my brothers, Derek Grace, he's called the Tatted Mentor. He says this well. For those of you who are at a 9-to-5 or employees, or just trying to figure it out in whatever capacity you are, when you're working at a job, use that time to infiltrate and to take the information and look at the processes and systems of the job that you're at. Like when I was, working as a celebrity realtor with Sotheby's, and I worked for Keller Williams and Century 21, and Coldwell Banker asked me to be a brand ambassador. I got a call from the vice president of North America for Coldwell Banker, and he asked me to be a brand ambassador for their company. But as I worked in these different corporate environments, and now I have none of those affiliations. I'm my own brand through and through. I have nobody over me, under me, side of me. It's just me on an island in our company. But while I spent times at those major companies, I was there soaking up game and soaking up knowledge. So like, whether you have an intentional mentor or an intentional business coach, or you're there kind of on a subliminal, take time to look at good systems, good processes, good brands, and how they run. And then look to duplicate those things in your business. Like it's much easier. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Find somebody that's doing what you like to do or what you want to do. Find somebody that's doing it well and either work for them and gain the information, intern for them, pay them, seek mentorship, whatever you got to do, but just take an existing model that works and then just go duplicate it. I think we try too hard, mostly based on ego, pride, or being cheap. We try too hard to reinvent things for ourselves as opposed to just duplicating an existing working model. So that's what I did. I just took working models that, even for our real estate fund, we have a $50 million real estate fund launching next year. I got all the information for my fund from sitting down with an existing fund in New York who's raised over $200 million. I just sat with them for a few hours and got their blueprint. And then I just duplicated it. I don't want to go do all the research myself and try to figure it out myself. I'm going to just find an existing model, and then I'm going to infiltrate and duplicate.
Infiltrate and duplicate. I'm writing that down. I appreciate that, fam. So let's talk about Jay Morrison's Academy. My first question is, I'm just curious about this. Why did you start Jay Morrison Academy when you could have just kept bankrolling and earning from deals that you were making behind the scenes? Typically when you start teaching, you're taking a pay cut. Let's be real. So what led you to start Jay Morrison Academy? What are you trying to achieve there? I got so many requests for mentorship and for people to be my apprentice. And I couldn't figure out how the heck do I mentor all these people. And, especially when my wake up video went viral on World Star Hip Hop back in 2012, I think it was. And my Breakfast Club video did pretty well. Yeah, so that's how I came across you, actually, that Breakfast Club video. And by the way, for the family listening, you're listening to United Black America Radio. We're going to include links to those videos and Jay Morrison's website, books that we're discussing, and any other links that you want to share with the family. We'll be happy to post those as well. But yeah, that Breakfast Club video is what woke me up to you. I saw that maybe 2 years ago, I think it was. And I was like, okay, this brother might be the truth. And then, doing my due diligence on you, I was like, got to have him on the show. But go ahead, family.
Right. And that's what happened. A lot of people saw the Breakfast Club when I wake up and was like, he seems all right. He might be legit. And people started watching me. Let me see, though. You know what I mean? And as people got to see my consistency, I've been the same. I'm the same me, same OG. And so anyway, after that video, I got thousands of inboxes, thousands of emails for mentorship requests. And I'm like, yo, how the heck can I teach all these people? And I know what understanding the real estate industry did for my life. And I know how easy real estate investing is. We just don't know enough about enough. And we can't learn it in high school, but they don't teach it. We can't learn it in college, they don't teach it. Or then you're going to pay these gurus who come into your cities thousands of dollars to learn it, and you still ain't going to learn it because they ain't going to be able to break it down to you in the way you understand it. And so I was like, you know what? I started doing research on just really how do you run an online school? And so I started gathering some experts, and back in December of 2011, I think it was? No, 2012. Back in December of 2012, I started gathering some information. And we just rolled it out. We did a beta test. We launched December of 2012. And then January 13th, I think January 8th of 2013 was like our first like real class. And since then, we've been rolling. And like I said, we'll be 4 years strong this January, over 6,000 students, many success stories, hundreds of thousands of dollars earned from our students. I have single moms that are out of Detroit that are now on their 11th, 12th property. I mean, I got high school kids who have made 30, 40 grand. I got ex-felons, ex-dope boys. I got 9-to-5 workers doing it part-time, college kids doing it part-time, retirees, 55-year-olds now getting into real estate investing, wholesaling properties. So it was just, and as you asked in the beginning question, what did I want to accomplish? For me, it was also a way to duplicate myself. It was like, I know real estate investing through and through. I know everything from how to wholesale a deal, how to evaluate a deal, how to start your LLC, how to build your brand, how to negotiate a deal, how to close your contracts, how to find leads, find buyers, find sellers, how to get hard money, private money, VA money, FHA money, how to bring in private partners, syndicate deals, manage your project managers. Like, however it is, I get it, and I've done it. And so it was like, if I just take the time to build a curriculum and write down my processes and my procedures and how you actually run a real estate investment business, not the overnight get rich, flip quick guru crap, but how you actually create a legitimate real estate investing business. We wrote that curriculum out, and it allows me to, one, empower thousands of others. And then I do deals with a lot of my students. So having so many people that understand my strategies and philosophies in regards to real estate investing out there, they're bringing deals back to me, or they're bringing opportunities to me, or bringing opportunities to them, and we're making money together. So again, It's another way for me to be able to scale my business. And now I have basically partners from our academy students and proteges and my coaching clients all throughout the country, partners throughout the country who are doing business together. So it allowed me to actually expand my real estate investment business without me having to work hard and just work smart.
Going back to what we were talking about earlier, working yourself up the value chain. I see it coming together now. That's a beautiful thing. Yeah, no doubt. And now that I'm thinking about it, I first came across you on the Breakfast Club, but my awareness of you was reinforced by one of my mentors, Dr. Boyce Watkins. He and one of his students, Andre Hatchett, put me on you again and said, well, this brother has a real estate school that he's running, and it is the example that we want to follow for some of the things that we're doing. It's all coming together now. It's all making sense. Let me ask you this. You mentioned a number of different people who you were working with from a number of different backgrounds. And one of the things that gurus come to the block with is that you can own real estate with $0 and bad credit, and you can acquire income producing property. Can you debunk that, or is that an accurate assertion?
There's layers to it, right?
There's levels to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So here's the gist on that. When it comes to no credit or no cash and owning real estate or profiting off real estate, there's two main ways. One is called wholesaling real estate, and you don't actually own the real estate, but what you do is you actually own the real estate contract. So when you learn how to find a deal and you learn how to evaluate what's a good deal, you can contract a good deal with no money down, right? And no credit. And by contracting that deal, you now have the purchase rights to that deal. And because you have the purchase rights to a really good deal, you can bring that contract to investors such as myself or developers such as myself and others, and you can say, hey, look, I'll give you my contract on this really, really good deal, but I need $3,000 though. And if that fee still makes sense for me within this deal, I'll pay you the $3,000 in order to have your contractual rights so I can now be in the owner position of this deal. And so that's how you can make money in real estate with no cash or credit. It's what we teach in our school, is by simply contracting properties and assigning your contracts for a fee. There's layers to you understanding how to evaluate a deal, how to find buyers, find deals, find leads, how to build a brand that seems viable enough for someone to take you serious, and those kind of things. But it's certainly doable and applicable. So that's one way. The second way, which we also teach in our commercial real estate class in our school, is syndicating a deal. It's where you are the owner in the deal, even though you have no credit. You got a bankruptcy on your credit. It's screwed up, and you got no cash. But because you're able to position yourself in the right way in the transaction, you can actually keep an equity stake in the transaction, still be an owner in the transaction, but bring in the credit partner you need, bring in the cash partner you need, bring in the experienced partner you need, or whatever it is you need, but still keep your stake in the deal and facilitate transactions that way. So there are ways to do it creatively. It's just about process and understanding, the nuances. And you got to have some value. So if you don't got the cash or the credit, your value will be the expertise or the ability to evaluate or find the deals. And then you can leverage that in the right way to be able to be a part of the transaction.
So family listening to this, if you aren't paying attention, y'all need to rewind, listen to that again. And again, we're going to include links to the Academy in the show notes. If you find this on YouTube, you find this on SoundCloud, wherever you find this, wherever our show notes are, we'll include links to that. Definitely good information. I don't know if you want to cover your book, Lord of Your Land, but in that book, I noticed there were 5 action steps. Do you want to give the audience a broad overview of those action steps? Because I want them all to pick up the book. I think this is one of the books that I have my personal library. This is one of the books that should be on everyone's shelves because it breaks down the game so simply. But do you want to give them a broad overview?
Yes. I'm holding it right now in my hands. Lord of My Land, 5 Steps to Homeownership. So what I did and why I wrote this book real quick is because I teach so much higher level real estate, from like how to syndicate deals I was just telling you, and how to flip and develop properties, knock down properties and build properties and multi-units and commercial properties. I was like, man, I do all this high level real estate, but I didn't even teach my people the basics on how to just own a roof over their head. So I was like, you know what? Let me take the time to actually write out and address all the concerns and fears and myths that I see commonly happen when it comes to homeownership. So what I broke down in step 1, right, in our 5 steps to homeownership, step 1 is finding your path and fighting your fear. So that's the first chapter of the book. Is what I realized: most people are so scared of homeownership, they make up all the excuses in the world as to why they can't own. Oh, my credit not good enough. I don't make enough. I don't this, I don't that. But you don't even know. How are you going to say you don't make enough, or you don't have enough money saved, or your credit's not good enough? How can you say that when you've never even been pre-approved? So how do you even know where you stand? Who made you a mortgage loan officer? And so one of the first things we recommend everybody do is go get your financial x-ray and go get pre-approved at a mortgage company. A case in point, I was working with Angela Yee from the Breakfast Club. Angela's like, hey, Jay, I want to own a home, but, I'm going to need 30% down, and I got some money, but that's a lot for a home in Brooklyn. And I'm like, Ange, you don't know 30% down? You get a home with 3.5% down. She's like, really? She's like, how much is that? I'm like, yo, if you want to buy a $500,000 house, it's only $17,500, $18,000. She's like, what? I could do that all day. And so, even I find that even people that are of celebrity stature or of affluence still don't know a lot of the basics about home ownership, again, because we're never taught it. There's nowhere in our curriculums in our schools that we're ever taught how to own the roof over our head. So finding your path and fighting the fear is one of the first things. Don't make up all excuses about your credit and about your income. First, go get pre-approved, find out where you stand, and then work backwards.
You mentioned a financial x-ray. What is a financial x-ray?
Well, we do them and you guys will have a chance, and we'll give you some links for that. We do them for people that inquire about our one-on-one coaching. What that is you go to a doctor's office, and they stick that thing in your ear, and then they put the thing on your heart and you get back and tell you to breathe in, breathe out. Then they pound your knee and they take your blood temperature and they make you stand on the scale, right? You get that whole diagnostic, diagnosis. Right. It's the same thing financially. I need to know, how much do you make a year? How much you got in savings? How much you got in assets? Do you got life insurance? You got 401k? You got pension? You got an IRA? Do you what's your credit score? What's your FICO score? Do you pull all 3 credit bureaus? What other money do you have around you? Do you have a co-borrower? Have you owned the real estate before? Finding out all the things, and you find this out in a simple way with a pre-approval when you go to a mortgage company. The whole point is when you get a financial x-ray and you find out you got a cracked rib, you then know you got to heal that cracked rib. So if you get a financial x-ray and you find out that, your credit score is 40 points too low, it's not a big deal. Just repair your credit. Or if you find out you don't make enough, it's not a big deal. Get a co-borrower or get a second job. Or if you find out you don't make enough to own a property, say one of my clients, Andre Benson, he got approved for X amount of dollars. I won't tell his business, right? He got approved for X amount of dollars for a single family home. But what I schooled him and coached him on is that your pre-approval for a single family home is not the same amount of money if you got pre-approved for a 2-family home or 3-family or 4-family home. When a bank pre-approves you for a multifamily home, they give you rental income consideration. So if you only make $30,000 a year in your job and you're buying a 3-family home or 4-unit, the bank will give you credit for the future rental income of those other 3 units you'll be renting out besides the unit you're living in. So now instead of the bank giving you a $30,000 a year consideration for your income, they're now considering the other $3,000 you're making off the other units, and they'll give you 75% credit of that. So now you figure that's $36,000 a year, 75% of that, about $30,000. So now you're making $60,000 a year in the bank's eyes to qualify for a 4-unit. But you wouldn't know that unless you actually went in and got an x-ray from someone who knew that. So it's like we don't know enough about enough, and the only way that we can find that out is by learning and, reading more, which we have all this in Lord of My Land, right?
So wait a minute. So you're saying that it would be more, depending on circumstances. Now, I know it varies person to person ad infinitum, but are you saying it would be more beneficial for someone to start off with a two-family household? Because now that I'm thinking about it, I remember you telling the story about the first piece of property that you bought being a duplex, I think it was. And I remember you talking about pulling up and, collecting rent. And that's where the whole concept of you being Lord of your land came from. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. I recommend it to everyone. I mean, like you said, obviously there's always those exceptions to the rule. But for a lot of people starting out, there's multiple reasons. And I have a great video on YouTube called Building Black Wealth. It's probably one of my best lectures. That everyone should watch. Just search Jay Morrison, Building Black Wealth, where I break down a multifamily strategy. But not only does multifamily properties help you qualify for more as a home buyer, whether you're a first-time home buyer, second or third, you can buy these homes FHA. You can use your veterans loan. A lot of our veterans don't even take advantage of their VA loan, which gives them 0% down. They can buy homes 100% financing. They get better rates under their VA. They can also use co-borrowers, and it's like so many perks to their veterans loans. But I do recommend that everyone start with the multifamily one for the qualifying purposes, for your ability to move out of that multifamily and to a second family way easier. And now you have 2 units two properties under your portfolio. There's also tax advantages to the multifamily and that are in addition to a single family. So there's a lot of things we could talk about forever in that capacity, but that is my recommendation. But for all of you guys, Lord of My Land is available for you, Amazon.com, ebook and paperback. So that was step 1, is finding your path, fighting your fear. Step 2 is building your team. Remember, you're the boss. That's the first thing I talk about. I always talk about scaling. I teach being an expert at hiring experts. You don't got to be the real estate professional. You don't got to be the appraiser. You don't got to be the title agent. You don't got to be the attorney. So many people always ask me, hey, Jay, I was thinking about going over my contract, and I asked my aunt, I'm like, why do you ask your aunt? She an attorney? And why are you asking your aunt legal advice? Like, why are you asking your bae accounting advice? Is he an accountant? So I talk about building your team. Anyone that's going into home ownership should understand the key players in the process and be intentional about building your team. So I talk about who you need in your team, how to hire them, how to interview them, how to vet them, and all that's also in the book. So that's step 2. So step 1, finding your path, fighting your fear. Step 2, building your team. Step 3 is house shopping. Obviously, it's looking for the home of your dreams or the home of your right now. A lot of times your dream home may be 2 or 3 homes away, but you get in where you can fit in because you got to live somewhere anyway. So you sitting around renting, paying somebody else's mortgage, getting their family rich while you're waiting to save up money for your dream home, when you could have just been living in your not-so-dream home, gaining appreciation, gaining tax advantages, gaining the cash flow, and having the power and control, the air rights, the mineral rights, and you being the boss and lord of your land. So even if you can't get to your dream home right away, still take the step, because no matter what, you got to live somewhere. And every time you pay your rent, that landlord is either pocketing it because they own the property free and clear, there's no mortgage, or the landlord is taking your rent money, paying off their mortgage with it. That property is gaining appreciation and value for their family net worth, and they're getting the tax advantages from it, and they're getting cash flow. And then if you strike oil or gold in your backyard, they get those mineral rights to that property.
Absolutely.
Or if they want to build up on that property, they own the air rights of that property. But you're paying for them to have all those rights because you're the tenant, you're the customer. So house shopping was number 3. Step 4 is getting to the closing table which is basically, boom, you fought your fear, you built your team, you house shopped, and then you get to the closing table, right? I show you how to close out on your deal, and then step 5 is post-closing practices. After you close on the property, what do you do next? And so we break all 5 steps of that down in Lord of My Land. And it's a really easy read. Honestly, I just did my audiobooks this weekend. And mind you, for the audiobooks, I had to get every word perfect. I had to pronunciate it really perfectly. I couldn't talk as fast as I'm talking right now. And I read my audiobook for the entire book in 5 hours, right? If you were just to read it on a fast read, you could read that book in probably 2 hours, 2.5 hours. So it's a really easy read, a very conversational tone, and it's something that everybody should have in every household if you don't understand fully how to be the Lord of your land on the roof of over your head.
I agree 100, and it definitely is very easy read, family. That needs to be on everybody's bookshelf. And speaking of books, you recently just did a double drop, right? And before we start talking about those specific books, I want to get into some issues that are specific to us as a community. And I hear you use certain terms often through your YouTube videos and even over the course of this interview. You use the term Africans in America versus saying African American, which is typical lexicon. My question to you is, what's the difference and what's the significance behind shifting our mindset from African American to Africans in America?
It's really a critical difference. I mean, African Americans is so fluid for us, but what that says is like, you guys are the Africans of America, right? Like you guys are like, you're America's Africans, right? Like we're owned by America.
Right.
Understanding that we're Africans in America is us taking ownership of our African roots, our African heritage, our African lineage, and the Africans that we are. That's one of the first awakening points for me is like, I remember one of the elders telling me I was African. I'm like, I ain't African. What are you talking about? I'm
exactly. That's the first response most brothers and sisters give, as if it's a negative, as if, somehow, some way, you, because you're here, magically evolved separate from the rest of the genotypically and phenotypically similar people on the planet. You know, there's nobody that looks like us. There's no one that has our hair, no one that has our amount of melanin, no one that has our stature and our structure. You know what I mean? But you refuse to identify yourself with your origin. It's crazy to me.
Because they beat the African out of us, man. They manipulate the African out of us. It's like if you go to an Italian male and say, you Italian. You're damn right I'm Italian. He ain't going to say I'm Italian American. Like,
that's right. That's right.
You go to an Irish man in America and say, yeah, you Irish. He ain't going to say, oh, I'm Irish American. He's going to say, you're damn right I'm Irish. But you go to an African in America and say, are you African? No, I'm African American. Like, you some new African. So, so it's important for us to understand that, like, I did a lot of research on my personal lineage and just in general for all of us. Like, my great-great-grandfather, my great-great-great-grandfather, Prince Rogers, was a slave in New Jersey. He actually has a road named after him. And his great-great-grandparents came from Africa. And so it's like, if my great-greats came from Africa and then were captured from, they didn't just come from Africa, were captured and kidnapped from Africa.
That's right.
And brought here against their will, and then they were left here. They were African. So what the hell does that make me? African.
Absolutely.
I'm just African in America. We still just left here. That's it. We were Africans who were captured, kidnapped, and brought here, tormented, brutalized, raped, murdered, and tortured here, dehumanized, demoralized, and deculturalized here, and then we were left here to deal with the circumstance of what we have. So when I say African in America, it is really just paying homage to the fact that I accept, I adopt, and I embrace the fact that before all things, I'm African first.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's shift our discussion to your book, The Solution, because with that comes the question of nationality. With that comes the question of unity, right? So if we are Africans in America, what does that mean for our nationality? So first of all, do you want to introduce the family to your book, The Solution, which is an excellent book, did very, very well in its first 72 hours. I don't think I've ever seen anything like it coming out of our community. But you want to introduce the family to the book and then talk about what this means for unity and nationality.
Oh, sure. Yeah, family, this is my baby. Like, Lord of My Land is like, I mean, it's dope. Don't get it wrong. I don't want to but that's like, The Solution is my baby. I wrote this book, the majority of it, I wrote in 2 days. In about 2.5 days, I turned both my phones off. I blocked myself out from the outside world. And I've had the solution theory and ideologies in me for so long, I just did not take the time to write them. write them down. And I did that a little earlier this year, actually this summer, and we got it published fast, and it did really well as a bestseller on Amazon, in civil rights and liberty, something I'm really, really proud of. But it is called The Solution because I saw so many really well-written books that documented our problems and our trauma. And I thank all of our scholars and philosophers and all our thought leaders of our generations and generations before for writing those books because they lended a lot of information to the solution. But I was like, I'm just solution oriented, right? It's the nature of my business. Like, when you go look at a property, it's like, man, this property is a dump. I'm looking at how can I make money off of the dump, right? So we're looking at, man, we're in some severe trauma as Black people, as Africans in America. We got some real problems and issues. But all right, what's the solution though? How do we fix it? And so the book is called The Solution: How Africans in America, Us, Achieve Unity, Justice, and Repair. And is inspired by Malcolm X's speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, in a line in which he said, "We suffer from political oppression, economic exploitation, and social degradation." I think that was the best summary of our experience or our diagnosis of what we suffer as a people. And so I looked at each of those words, political oppression. So if we're politically oppressed, that means we need political power. We get political power through unity. That's why I said how we achieve unity, right? So I was looking at the antonyms, the opposites to that diagnosis Malcolm gave us. How do we cure diagnosis? So if we suffer from political oppression, that means we need political power, which is unity. If we suffer from economic exploitation, that means we need economic stimulation. So we cover that in the book as well. And then we talk about we suffer from social degradation. So that means we need social elevation. And so when we talk about our unity, our justice, and our repair, that repair is economic repair and social repair. And we cover that in this really concise and straight to the point read in The Solution.
Yeah, most definitely. Most definitely. Well, let me ask you this. There are a number of different factions that are, for lack of a better word, at war with one another over the issue of nationality. Now, I've seen a number of YouTube videos that you've done on the subject of nationality. I think you're on point. Do you want to talk about how we can take an approach to resolving the question of nationality?
Yes. I pray to God that he helps this happen. So when I look at nationality, right, we all, or many of us, have different opinions about our nationality, right? Whether we're Nation of Islam, whether we're Pan-African, New African, like the NRA, whatever. Like we have Black Israelite, we're Moorish, right? We have all these different ideologies and philosophies. That's cool. That's healthy. But the issue is we're not being sophisticated and civilized enough as a people to do what sophisticated and civilized nations of people do. And that's simply vote. So what my solution is to how we achieve unity is that we have a Black Vote Day. My suggestion would be to take June 19th, Juneteenth, and have our Black Vote Day, and where we set up a public vote for Black people, taking 100 of our most influential people, business leaders, activists, entertainers, entrepreneurs, religious leaders, take almost 100 most influential people and have them vote as like super delegates. And then we have a public vote online for all of our constituents publicly. And we have this Black Vote Day. And what that will allow us to do is actually vote on our nationality, vote on our flag, vote on who we are, instead of the American government or Jesse Jackson or whomever just determining who we are, or instead of us being divided and following our independent, charismatic leaders, right? So everyone adopts to a certain leader or figure, and now you follow him. Or you follow Dr. Umar. You follow Tariq Nasheed. You follow Mr. Farrakhan. You follow Jay Morrison. You follow Boyce Watkins. You follow whomever. Well, what about we all said, look, let's be civilized, right? We're civilized people. Let's vote on our nationality. Everybody make their case for who we are and why you feel like who we are should be who we are. And then let us all vote on it. And whatever that vote is, we all shake hands and leave the room saying whatever vote wins, that's who the hell we are. And then you have a unified people around one name, one flag, and one identity. It's very simple.
True indeed. True indeed. I think you're 100% right and exact with that approach. So, Jay, you have given us more time than we asked for already. I think we could talk all day, but your time is valuable. So my question to you is, what didn't we talk about? What didn't we ask that we should have that you would like to answer? What other conclusions would you like to give to the brothers and sisters? And give us some calls to action. What action should we be taking as a direct result of this podcast today?
Again, thank you, King, for having me. We did cover a lot, and I enjoyed talking to you. Great interview. We certainly could be on it. We'll be on here another hour or two.
Likewise.
But in regards to call to actions or just things to remember, I would encourage everyone to get Lord of My Land and the solution from a home ownership and wealth building perspective, and the solution from a community perspective. I have some really clean and clear ideologies and philosophies on what we can do for our justice, for our repair, and for our unity. And I would ask that all you guys join me in that. Secondly, remember from a wealth building perspective, like we have a $1 billion initiative we're doing next year. We're going to help 10,000 families or individuals, 10,000 committed families or individuals raise and increase their net worth by $100,000. That's going to be $1 billion of new family net worth in our community. And so we're going to be launching that next year. And I want to encourage everyone to understand this. Everybody has a path to financial freedom and wealth building. If you're credit poor, there's a way to repair and restore and rebuild your credit. And then you can leverage your credit for cash. Right now I have about 7 or 8 of my personal coaching clients who have built their credit up and then used their credit to get cash from anywhere from $50,000 to $120,000. They're now taking that cash, leverage off their personal credit to go invest in the properties that are making them anywhere from 22% returns to 144% returns, all off their credit with no money out of their own pocket, right? So that's an opportunity for you. If you've inherited properties or you own your own property, don't let that equity sit there. Don't take the equity and go buy a car, go on vacation. Use that equity to start building a real estate portfolio. Don't go do it without a roadmap. I encourage everyone to look at our school or our training or our coaching, but I'm so real with it. I don't even care if you go to our school. Just learn it from somebody who you feel confident that you can learn it from, but don't get into real estate investing just off the whim. You wouldn't go and be a barber and just start cutting hair off the rip. You go to barber school. You wouldn't just go try to be a chef just off your natural skills. You go to culinary school.
That's right.
You wouldn't be an accountant without going to accounting school. You're not going to go be a successful real estate investor without some kind of real estate mentorship, coaching, or training. That's all we offer. We offer it from an online perspective. If you want to learn at your own pace, it's very affordable. You get our online school. If you want me or my team to work with you hands-on, we offer one-on-one coaching. But whether you have credit, equity in your home, a 401k, IRA, pension, you got a VA loan, you got money under your mattress, in your shoebox, you got savings, CDs, all these things should be leveraged for a real estate portfolio. We keep parking our money in the bank, and all the bank does is take our money and buy our hoods, buy our neighborhoods, push us out, and make more money off the same money we put in the banks.
True indeed.
Let's stop being financially and intellectually immature and politically immature, and let's start being more mature, more astute, more savvy, and let's level up. That's my call to action to our community. You guys can inquire or apply for my one-on-one coaching or for our online program, both at jmorrisonacademy.com.
And I'm looking at your website right now. This is a beautiful piece of digital property. Now, I don't know if you want to throw out her name, but did the queen from Better Than Success design this for you?
Yes, she did. Yep. Nikki Perfect designed that site for us. A queen out of Philly who was working with our company for a few months. She runs a Better to Success podcast. She's an entrepreneur, and she did a great job on putting that piece together for us.
Nikki is a beast. Nikki is a beast. So, yep. I mean, hey, she's beautiful. Yeah, she's dope. Beautiful website. Mr. Morrison, again, thank you so much for coming on, King. I really enjoyed this interview, learned a lot. But again, family, you can learn a lot more by picking up these books, getting active, getting involved with the Academy. And I'm going to give you this commitment over the air. United Black America will be working with you very closely as we move into this new era of unity, justice, and repair, family. So thank you again. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me. Peace, family. One love.